Hello, boys and girls. This is the story of how a UN report just said that at least 11,000 children have been killed or maimed in the US-backed war in Yemen, even while the weapons contractors who are making bank from this Dante's Inferno are reading fairy tales to British children. No, like, seriously.
Welcome to Engineering Fairy Tales. My name is Hannah, and I'm an aircraft technician with the British Army. That means I work with helicopters, fixing things from engines to hydraulics or just a flat tire. I'm going to read you the story of Hansel and Gretel.
What fresh hell is that? We'll get back to the dystopian fairy tales that'll be forever burned in my brain in a moment. You probably already know that Saudi Arabia, one of the world's richest countries, has been bombing Yemen, the fifth poorest country in the world, since 2015, with support from good old Uncle Sam. I mean, come on, does Saudi Arabia even need the U.S. to destroy the fifth poorest country? It's equivalent to Barry Bonds in his steroidal prime playing baseball against your asthmatic, cross-eyed 5-year-old cousin, and then he stops to call over Mark McGuire in his juiciest prime to hold the kid down. Can you tell I haven't watched baseball since 1999? The United States has put its military might behind the Saudi-led coalition, waging a war without congressional authorization per usual. That war has devastated Yemen's infrastructure, destroyed or damaged more than half of Yemen's health facilities, killed and injured tens of thousands, and displaced millions. But of course, it's killed far more than tens of thousands because more are killed from the famine and the disease a war causes than from the actual bombs. This is utter insanity. And Yemen is just the tip of the iceberg. According to Brown University's Cost of War project, the U.S. post-9/11 wars have forcibly displaced at least 37 million people in and from Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, the Philippines, Libya, and Syria. 37 million people, and that's the low estimate. But let's not be all negative about this. I hate when people just show the grim side of death and destruction. How about the fact that a lot of people are getting very rich from this endless assault on the people of Yemen? There's a positive, right? Do you have any idea how many heated towel racks this war has bought for investment bankers? Do you have any concept of the number of silver-lined bidets that have been installed thanks to this war? The war in Yemen has been particularly lucrative for General Dynamics, Boeing, and Raytheon, which have received hundreds of millions of dollars in Saudi weapons deals. But let's not leave out the British war profiteers, who are the most polite of the merchants of death. They always have a spot of tea to rinse down the partially congealed blood patties they alligator gulped down their throats during the standard ritual celebration following the signing of each arms deal. I love the Brits. BAE Systems sold 15 billion pounds worth of arms to the Saudis during the Yemen assault. And that number is actually 2 years old, so it's many billions higher than that now. But BAE Systems doesn't want us to only think of them as serial murderers. That is just one of their many talents. Here's what they tell the British people they're really all about.
Hi. My name is Dale. I work at 41 Squadron, RAF Coningsby, as a survival equipment specialist, which means I look after everything that helps keep the pilots safe while they're flying their aeroplane. Would you like to hear a story? Well, welcome to Engineering Fairy Tales. Today, I'm going to read you Jack and the Beanstalk. So get comfy and listen closely, because Jack might need your help at the end of this story.
Okay, I've had fever nightmares involving clowns wearing eye patches and involuntary Brazilian waxing that weren't nearly as terrifying as that story time. First of all, I assume that guy is being held in a black site with a cheese grater pointed at his gonads. Why else would he be doing this? Secondly, why do we need freaking military to read our kids fairy tales? Hi, kids. I've chalked up 35 kills over the past 2 years, many of them children, just like you. Now settle in, because I'm getting ready to read you the original shooting script for the film Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The part of the chainsaw will be played by this bile-stained sock puppet, which once held my neighbor's foot. Third, this series of children's storytime videos is paid for and branded with BAE Systems. So they sell weapons of death, and they have a side hustle of reading fairy tales to toddlers. Something tells me the story time is not the real money maker in that scenario. And this whole story time thing, it doesn't make them less creepy. It actually makes them creepier. Like if someone told you they were a hitman and a juggler at sleepover parties for tots. Isn't that worse? As The Independent reported, the fairy stories are just the latest example of a marketing blitz on schools by military contractors and suppliers who collectively spend millions of pounds a year promoting their brands in schools. Isn't it intriguing that they're allowed to promote militarism and killing to the young, impressionable brains of our youth, but no school is allowed to promote a million other important and actually beneficial and crucial ideas, such as alternatives to capitalism, there's one, or the idea that wage slavery is still slavery, or the concept that nation states are a ridiculous way to delineate the world when we should all be united as humans to create a better, sustainable, comfortable, hell, breathable world, because we're just tiny flesh balls trying to survive on a minuscule grain of dirt flying to an empty black void at unimaginable speeds. Can't teach that in the schools. Can't teach the youngins that a pretty large percentage of marriages are a form of miserable imprisonment. Can't teach them not to touch the comforters in hotel rooms, because if you held a black light up to those things, they'd light up like a Christmas tree. Be an episode of CSI, for God's sakes. Aren't allowed to infiltrate young brains with the idea that most police just act as a fist of the fascist state to defend the highly exploitative status quo. Can't introduce the concept that there are drug dealers who spend decades in jail if caught, and other drug dealers called Big Pharma that make billions and continue to just run free on the streets. They don't have to hide from the cops. In fact, they have ads on television every day. Can't teach any of that, can you? But you can lovingly tell a 6-year-old that military personnel are his friends and they want to help out with story time. You know, if they get a spare minute between dropping drone bombs on goat herders outside Kabul. So why does BAE Systems put out story time videos? It all comes down to image. Image for weapons contractors like BAE, Raytheon, Lockheed, General Dynamics is very important, because if their image gets bad enough, rich people stop investing in them. Take, for example, Elbit Systems. Elbit Systems purchased the government-owned Israeli Military Industries, IMI, in 2018, which granted it an 80% monopoly over sales to the Israeli land forces. This cemented the firm as the largest Israeli arms company and also turned Israel's arms industry from mostly government-owned to mostly privately owned. So investors for Elbit get rich while the company destroys the lives of Palestinians. Elbit Systems is known primarily for its military drones, specifically the Hermes, which have been used repeatedly in Israeli military operations in the Gaza Strip. The company also produces components for the illegal separation wall in the occupied West Bank. I mean, define illegal. If you're already killing a bunch of innocent people, then hearing someone say, "That wall is illegal," kinda loses its gravitas. However, Elbit Systems' image has taken a hit in recent years. Even HSBC divested from the Israeli arms company. HSBC is one of the largest banks in the world, which is known for laundering hundreds of millions for drug cartels. In fact, HSBC was profiting from an international criminal scheme even while on probation for having served murderous drug cartels and other criminals. So HSBC divesting from Elbit Systems is like a cannibal walking up to you and going, "Man, what you're doing is just wrong. Have you no sense of decency or ethics? Nothing?" That's how horrific Elbit Systems is. They make the worst of the worst in the world not want to speak to them. Their image has largely taken a hit thanks to activists fighting back. Elbit had a black tie event recently for their largest richest investors, millionaires making millions from investing in weapons of death. But the group Palestine Action made sure the event did not go as well as it could have.
Elbit Systems slaughters people from Palestine and Kashmir, thousands upon thousands. Elbit Systems kills thousands of people daily.
Tonight you play dress up to mask your war crimes, and the sight of it is disgusting. Whilst you drink your champagne, people from Palestine to Kashmir, all the blood spilled from the weapons you make to kill.
Talk about a turd in the $12,000 Tiffany's Punch Bowl. Nothing ruins a high-end, wearing a tailored suit and sitting next to the Duke and Duchess or whatever the fuck evening like a bunch of real-world humans with an actual moral core standing up in your face and reminding you that the lobster tail mousse you're gently munching on while talking about your investment portfolio is paid for by the deaths of thousands of children you never met nor barely thought about. That ruins an evening real quick. And that's why those people, those are my heroes. Like stop giving out awards on TV for the best 62-year-old man portraying a mentally challenged golfer in a feel-good movie. Start giving out awards for screaming in the faces of rich sociopaths, for giving the richest investment bankers indigestion. That award show I would tune into. Those are the real heroes. And that's the most censored news for this week. But also check out my interviews. I'm talking to Stella Morris this week, Julian Assange's wife. And you can get all of that at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines. But none of this is possible or available or can keep going without your help. We're completely independently funded. So become a member at patreon.com/behindtheheadlines. And keep fighting.